Okay, so from the first time I saw Maine Governor Paul LePage, I knew he was an idiot because he reminded me of a cross between Rob Ford and Donald Trump. So, for any Canadian viewers that don't know who he is, there's your examples. Removing Confederate statues like losing 9/11 Memorial. No, it's not. It is two wildly, vastly different things. Because Confederate statues are there glorifying traitors to the United States. The 9/11 Memorial is commemorating citizens who were murdered by terrorists. Two completely different things. That's like apples and oranges. Taking down statues of Confederate figures is just like removing a monument to victims of the 9/11 attacks, Governor Paul LePage said Thursday, adding that the white nationalists and far-left protesters in Charlottesville over the weekend were equally as bad and disgusting. No, they weren't. Antifa's bad. I'm not gonna lie. But the Nazis? Racists? KKK? Yeah. They're a different level of disgusting and horrible. So, Nazis, worst, probably some of the worst of the bunch. Antifa, bad. Okay? It's like top floor, Nazis, white nationalists, racist, KKK, ISIS, that group. And right below them is Antifa, so the far left. So, just get that straight. Republican governor made the comments during an appearance on WGAN AM when asked for his reaction to the deadly violence in Virginia at a white nationalist protest over the removal of a statue of General Robert E. Lee. Hey, if Robert E. Lee's family says it's okay to take him down, there you go. You've got the family's blessings. That's all you really need, really. Hell, you don't even need that at this point, but, you know. I mean, Robert E. Lee didn't even want statues put up, but, you know, screw him, they put him up anyway. LePage, echoing President Trump, said he condemns both sides that went to the city with the intent of inciting violence. He lamented the deaths of 32-year-old Heather Hare, who was struck by a car that drove into a crowd of protesters, and two state police officers whose helicopter crashed during an effort to contain the violence. Yeah, and I've seen since the protests and Heather Hare's death and everything, her mother is now getting death threats. So yeah, hey, you Nazis, KKK, white nationalists and alt-righters, if any of you are watching this, go f*** yourself. LePage said left-wing protesters who want to remove Confederate statues are ignorant of history and want to erase it. He compared them to the Taliban in Afghanistan in their desire to remove monuments. Actually,
wrong.
Because, well, let's face it, Germany doesn't have any statues of Hitler or other Nazis, yet they know their history, they haven't forgotten it. Apparently, LePage and others like him have forgotten these things called textbooks. Plus, a lot of these monuments, like the ones in New Orleans, for example, they are planned to go into museums. They're taken down off public land, put into museums. They're not being destroyed. So, yeah. How can future generations learn if we're going to erase history? That's disgusting, he said. They should study their history. They don't even know the history of this country and they're going to take monuments down. Listen, whether we like it or not, this is what our history is. And like I just said, Germany doesn't have monuments to Nazis, but they know their history because they have museums that teach German history. Just like we have national history museums here, which is where some of these, if not all of these statues, are going. He continued, to me, it's just like going to New York City right now and taking down the monument to those who perished in 9/11. It will come to that. No, it won't. Because 9/11 was a terrorist attack. They were victims of that, not traitors like the Confederate soldiers who fired on United States or Union officers. So, no, it's not. LePage said he also didn't find out about the Charlottesville violence until Tuesday because he didn't watch TV or read newspapers. The governor, who has a long history of feuding with the media, said he thinks newspapers are pencil terrorists. How do people like this get elected to public office? Part of the job is knowing what's going on in the world. And if you don't watch the news or read newspapers, how are you going to get that? And you notice it's usually, though, far-right Republicans that are like this more than anybody else. I'm not saying the others on like the left and not as far right aren't like that also. I'm just saying it's usually that group, that fringe far-right but not quite alt-right group that think like this. I don't get it. Republican U.S. Senator Susan Collins said Thursday that it's very difficult to think how anyone would not be aware of these events, given the extensive coverage and discussion that people are having about them. Well, like he said, he doesn't read newspapers and doesn't watch TV, so I'm surprised he still didn't have an aide or somebody come in. You need to turn on the news and see what's going on. So I kind of also hold them responsible for that, but it's still his fault for being so stupid not to, see what's going on. Collins, whom LePage called downright dangerous over her vote to oppose the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, added that Maine has its own problems with racial intolerance, including the reported discovery of Ku Klux Klan flyers in Booth Bay Harbor this week, and that the governor should focus on those. Yeah, he needs to focus on those. Let's get that right. He does. And he also needs to get his head out of his ass before he makes comments like this article. Trump, for whom LePage campaigned last year. Are you really surprised? I know I'm not. Also voiced criticism of the movement to remove Confederate monuments on Thursday. He said the nation is witnessing the history and culture of our great country being ripped apart. It was ripped apart when the South tried to secede from the U.S. and then attacked the U.S. in an act of treason. I mean, we've kind of mended our history since then. The comments from LePage and Trump drew immediate condemnation from Maine Democrats. Maine Democratic Party Chairman Phil Bartlett said both men were doubling down on a shameful and embarrassing perspective. He called LePage's comments about Charlottesville unhinged and ill-informed. Wildly uninformed. Wildly unhinged. Like I said, he's a cross between Donald Trump and Rob Ford. But as far as I know, he's not a kid, so. Diane Russell, a Democratic former state representative who is running for governor, tweeted that it was hypocritical for LePage to argue in favor of preserving history when he once ordered the removal of a labor mural from the Maine Department of Labor in Augusta. Remember, Republicans are immune to irony. They are immune to hypocrisy. Well, I mean, because they commit it all the time, but they just don't get it. They don't think it's hypocritical. I don't know why. LePage said the mural, which now hangs in the Maine State Museum, was too sympathetic to unions. He is prevented by term limit laws from running for re-election in 2018. Well, from what I've seen throughout history, unions are generally relatively good for the workers, but not so quote-unquote good for corporations. So I wonder which side LePage is on, worker or corporate. I think it's safe to say LePage is an idiot. Confederate memorials are not the same thing as the 9/11 memorial in New York. The fact that he even equates them is an affront to the people that were killed on 9/11. So I'm done. I'm glad this article's over. Let's get on to something else, shall we? Holy crap, you've made it through to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe down below. Be sure to leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. And now, roll the outro. Merry